Today, we're cracking open the case file on a really sneaky microscopic parasite that has taken over a huge part of the world, the Siberian liver fluke, or to use its full name, Opisthorchis felineus. Its story you'll see connects some of the most unlikely people and places. It's a real tale of biology, what we eat, and a disease that hides in plain sight. And that brings us to our central mystery, which sounds like the start of a joke. What do a fisherman on the Ob River in Siberia, someone enjoying a nice meal by a lake in Italy, and your average house cat all have in common? Well, the answer is this tiny parasite, our subject, Opisthorchis felineus. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll get to know our target. Then, we'll map out its global territory and figure out its incredibly complex life cycle. After that, we'll look at the silent damage it can cause. And finally, we'll explore how we can fight back and what the future holds in store. All right, let's start by properly introducing this fluke. To really understand its impact, we first need to know exactly what it is we're up against. Okay, first thing you need to know is where this parasite lives. Inside its host. It's what we call an endoparasite, but it's more than that. It's obligate. That means it literally cannot survive or complete its life cycle on the outside. No way. It sets up shop deep inside the body, specifically hanging out in the bile ducts and gallbladder of mammals. And yep, that includes us. And don't make the mistake of thinking this is some simple little germ or a virus. As you can see from its classification, Opisthorchis felineus is a complex animal, a metazoan. It's a flatworm, a fluke, a sophisticated creature with its own tissues and organ systems. Pretty wild, right? Its name actually tells a fantastic story. Opisthorchis comes straight from Greek, and it means back testicle, which is a perfect description of the fluke's anatomy. Its testes are way in the back of its body. And felineus? Well, that's just Latin for of the cat, because it was first officially identified in the liver of a cat way back in 1884 in Italy. The name is a dead giveaway. Okay, so we know what it is, but where is it? That brings us to Section 2, the parasite's map. And trust me, its global territory might just surprise you. This parasite has the largest range of all the major liver flukes, stretching all the way across Eurasia. But the absolute epicenter, the ground zero, is the Opisthorchis River Basin in western Siberia. It's what we call hyper-endemic there. We also see major hotspots across European Russia and Ukraine, and even these persistent, sporadic outbreaks in Italy, mostly around lakes like Bolsena. To really get the scale of this problem, just think about this number. In some rural villages in Siberia, the infection rate can hit 90%. 90! Just imagine that. You're in a community where pretty much everyone is living with this parasite. The number is just staggering. But look, don't think for a second this is just some far-off problem. In a country like the Netherlands, where this fluke doesn't naturally live, it still shows up. So how does that happen? Well, it's an unwanted souvenir. Travelers who eat raw or undercooked fish in places like Italy can bring the infection right back home with them, which makes it a real public health issue, even in countries where it's not endemic. So that brings us to its modus operandi. How does this parasite survive and spread? Its life cycle is this incredible, complicated three-act drama. It all kicks off right here with the microscopic egg. An infected mammal, say a cat, a fox, or a person, passes these eggs in its feces. Now, for the story to continue, this egg absolutely has to end up in fresh water. And this is where the three-host heist really begins. First, the egg gets eaten by a very specific type of freshwater snail. Inside that snail, it develops and multiplies like crazy. Second, new larval forms burst out of the snail, find a freshwater fish, and burrow into its muscle, forming a tiny cyst. And for the final act, the cycle completes when a mammal eats that infected fish raw or undercooked. Game over. But what happens when that final host is a human? Well, that brings us to the consequences. This is a silent attack, one that can unfold over decades. The infection basically has two phases. There's the acute phase, a few weeks after you're infected, which can feel a lot like the flu. Fever, pain, it's often mistaken for something else. But then comes the chronic phase. For years, sometimes decades, you might feel nothing at all. It can be completely asymptomatic, all while the flukes are causing this constant low-level inflammation and damage to your bile ducts. And this long-term inflammation leads to the most serious risk of all, cholangiocarcinoma, or bile duct cancer. Now check this out. Its close cousins are classified as group 1 carcinogens, meaning they definitely cause cancer in humans. Opisthorchis felineus is currently listed as Group 3, or potentially carcinogenic, and that's mostly because there have been fewer direct human studies. But there's a growing agreement among scientists that its potential is just as severe, especially when you see that in parts of Siberia, bile duct cancer rates are way, way higher than the national average. So, if this thing is so hidden and so dangerous, what can we do? How do we fight back? That brings us to Section 5, the countermeasures. How do we find this invader and, well, defeat it? Turns out we've got a whole toolkit for detection. The classic method is, you guessed it, looking for eggs in a stool sample under a microscope. But today, we have much more advanced tools, like detecting the parasite's DNA, finding the antibodies our bodies make to fight it, or even using an ultrasound to see the physical damage. The real challenge is that in places where it's not common, like the Netherlands, getting a diagnosis can be tough without specific commercial test kits. The good news is, once it's diagnosed, we have a primary weapon. The infection is treatable with a really effective antiparasitic drug called praziquantel. It's the go-to medication that can clear the infection and stop that long-term damage right in its tracks.
And that brings us to our final section, the future. Let's look at how you can stay safe and how cutting-edge science is working to hopefully end this parasite story for good.
Prevention is actually pretty straightforward, but it's absolutely critical. The number one rule is to thoroughly cook all freshwater fish. Freezing works too. In fact, there's been a law in the Netherlands since 1968 that herring has to be frozen, and that was to fight a different parasite, but the same principle works here. Of course, good kitchen hygiene and proper sanitation are also key to breaking the cycle. And the future looks pretty hopeful. Scientists are making incredible progress on vaccines, with some really promising results in animal testing. They're also taking what's called a One Health approach, which recognizes that you can't just treat humans, you also have to treat the animal hosts, like cats, to fully break that cycle of transmission. All that, plus better and faster diagnostics, are definitely on the horizon. Just so you know, this information was compiled using a Gemini deep search. You can find a detailed list of all the sources we used for this explainer in the linked Notebook LM document. And that leaves us with one final thought. If a silent parasite like this can thrive for decades, crossing entire continents and connecting ecosystems in this hidden biological web, it makes you wonder, what other incredible hidden stories are out there, just waiting to be told? If you found this deep dive into the hidden world of parasites interesting, please subscribe for more. We'd love to hear your feedback, so let us know what you think in the comments. And when you do, please try to use the full name Opisthorchis felineus, just to help keep the discussion clear. Thanks for watching.